Hello everybody and welcome back to the Creature Flesh workshop. Now if you've been following our channel, you'll know that we have been making a silicone mask inspired by The Last of Us. And we are now on the final part of that project. So we have sculpted, molded, cast and patched our mask. We're now on the final stage, arguably the best stage, which is painting. And stick around till the end of the video where we will be trying our mask on for the first time. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So we are probably at the most exciting part of the project. This is the stage where we can really make our creation come to life. And it's personally my favorite part of the project. I'm pretty sure I've said that before about something else. And that is the painting stage. Now, this is where we can really have fun with our piece. I've got a few ideas of how I want it to look, but to be honest, until you start putting paint down, you don't really know how it's going to turn out. But that's the exciting part. Now I'm going to be using Psycho paint, which is this stuff over here. And I'm going to be mixing that with some of our Silpig silicone pigments. And these are made by Smooth On, the same people that make the Psycho paint and all the other silicone that we use on this channel. Now, if you remember from our Dragir series a little while back, we used our silicone flesh tone paint system order. And if you remember, the reason that we use a particular order when we're painting with silicone is because you really have to start with the lightest color first and then ending up with your darkest color last. And that's because silicone is translucent, and if we paint a really dark color on first, it's going to be really tough to get a lighter color to show above that. So we're going to be using a slightly different order this time around because it's a different mask. And each mask requires its own types of paint and pigments and colors. But the first thing I'm going to do is mix up a slightly darker tone to our base color that we've got here on our mask. And that's just so I can start to highlight and pick out some of those details, parts like these deeper kind of crevices and wrinkles, and all of this detail on the side here. Even though I think it looks pretty cool now, it's going to look 100 times better when we start to highlight and paint those details in. Now we're going to start off light. We're not going to go too crazy straight away, but I just want to pick out some of those highlights. So let's get painting. So far so good. We've got a few layers down and we've used a couple of our techniques like airbrushing and flicking that paint on as well. I did have a little bit of commentary between some of those clips, but my microphone wasn't on. So I'm going to explain a little bit about what I've done so far. We started off by just highlighting some of the deeper ridges using kind of like a darker flesh tone, a little bit darker than our kind of base coat on there. And we use that tone to kind of highlight some of the areas on the mask that are a little bit deeper, got a little bit more detail there, just to try and make the raised bits kind of pop out a little bit. And then we went in with a purple tone and focused on some of the areas where the blood capillaries would be closer to the surface of the skin. So we've got the lips, the nose, and also the ear as well, just to kind of give it a more realistic, alive look. We've also got some wonderfully pink lips. We also used a mottling technique, whereas you get your airbrush and you kind of move it in random directions close up while pressing the trigger. And you get these nice kind of mottled effects just around here, and also you can see on the back as well, also on the top of the head there too. And then we used our paintbrush to flick some of the paint onto it, and you kind of get these nice little flecks on there which kind of look a lot like freckles and moles and things like that. And then we went in with a darker red color just in some of these areas where it's starting to look a little bit gory. We went in with some veining as well, again using that airbrush close up and just slowly moving it over in a random fashion to get those kind of veining looks. And overall, so far, I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's coming along quite nicely. But now we've kind of achieved that realistic skin look, I now want to start to add some of those little touches that are going to make it look more infected. We're going to start working on those bits of fungus as well. So we need to go in with some yellows, some oranges, and just try and make some highlights on some of these high point areas on the mask. I think this is where it's really going to start to look cool. So I want to show you a slightly different technique for spattering. So we just used our chip brush or paint brush that we've kind of cut down to flick on some of the silicone paint, just so we can get a good overall texture. We did it with some browns and red, and it's pretty effective using one of these, but you don't have a massive amount of control over the size of the splatters and the kind of radius of it. It kind of just goes where it wants, really, which is good because it does create a nice organic look, but sometimes you want a little bit more control. So another way of achieving this is to use something like this, which is a relatively cheap airbrush. You can get these for 15-20 pounds or dollars wherever you're from, and they're not the best for detailing, but they are really good at getting a wide coverage, a larger surface area of coverage. So we can either use these to get an overall coat, but what I like to do with the spattering technique is to turn the pressure all the way down so there's barely any air actually coming through. And when we put our paint in the top here, as that paint comes out, it kind of spatters out. because of the low air pressure. And that gives us a nice control over where we can put that paint on our piece, and it's also a really quick and easy way of doing so. You also don't waste quite as much paint as you do when you're dipping the brush in. So we're going to give that a go now with some brown pigment and get a little bit more texture on the skin. So that is our paint job finished. We've got a nice skin texture overall. We've highlighted some of these kind of raised areas on here. We've got a nice bright and colorful fungus on the top there and on the side. So overall, I'm super happy with how the paint job has turned out. But at the moment, he is looking pretty shiny. For some mask applications, we might want to leave that kind of sheen on there. But for this guy, I want to matte most of the skin texture down just to make it look a little bit more dry and realistic. But I'm going to leave some areas like the fungus at the top glossy, just so it stands out a little bit more. So we're going to use this matting powder, which is a transparent matting powder. So it's not really going to lighten it up too much, and we're not going to lose any of that detail that we just took the time to achieve. So here it is, our finished silicone mask. And I've got to say, I am super happy with how it turned out. We hit a few problems along the way regarding our mold and getting some calculations off, but we fixed it, we learned a lot, and actually next time we know how to do it much better. I think overall the sculpt and the paint job have come together really, really nicely. So the only thing left to do is to try it on. So that is it for this silicone mask build. And I just want to say thank you for everyone that's joined me along this journey. I've learned loads of stuff. I hope you've learned some stuff along the way as well. Please join us again next time where we will be making some more cool stuff. And if you have any ideas of future projects that you would like us to make, please pop them below in the comments. But until next time, thanks for watching.